Like my goggles. Big Sills! Good afternoon, all. You know, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. You know, I got to tell you, I'm going to hit on the Gardner Johnson stuff here in a second. I am. I'm going to hit on the Gardner Johnson stuff. And he was obviously watching the show yesterday. And like a lot of the Eagle management guys and a lot of the Eagle players do, we appreciate everybody that contributes, and we thank you so much. I'm going to get to that here in a minute. But before I start, and before we start the show, by the way, too, Rick Berry, I promise, is going to join us today. Tone, I was so grateful. Out of nowhere, Seth Joyner just parachutes in. He and I hadn't heard anything, and there was Seth. And I'm like, God, that's great. Thank you very much for parachuting in. So we're going to catch up with our friend Rick Berry here and get his thoughts here, man. Seth's texting me right now, too, by the way. He saw the soundbite. I'm gonna say it's on Twitter. I got to send this to Seth. Okay. Let me do this. By the way, great job, Tone, and our IT folks. Very good stuff. A lot of sensitive folks out there. A lot of sensitive folks. All right. Before I get going into the Gardner Johnson stuff, so the NFL owners in Phoenix told the players that they could wear the number 0. Now, help me out on this. 32 of the richest men on the planet walked into a meeting and thought it was a good idea that number changes and numbers like that is a good deal. When lifetime benefits, healthcare, helping players after they leave the game was never tabled. Guaranteed contracts are taboo, but number changes. Who in their right mind you know what? This shows you how dumb at times professional athletes are. Because if you're a person out there that gets up off his ass every day and goes to work, and if you think a number change where you're allowed to wear this particular number is a thing, you're stupid. It's the stupidest crumb you could throw at anybody. Man, I get it now. When some of you folks out there go like this, professional athletes are dumbasses. That's the prime example of it. Chasing numbers? You got to be kidding me. Why wouldn't someone in that meeting room go, hey, we got to start taking care of these players once they leave the sport here and give them lifetime health care, improve their benefits, improve their pensions, do more. They never have conversations about that shit, CTE, or guaranteed contracts. But they have conversations on number changes. Man, we're the dumbest people on the planet. We are so stupid. You know, when Seth was killing D. Smith yesterday, and he's rightfully so, I believe now, get this, total collusion on Lamar Jackson. He's a victim. You got guys in a room in Phoenix talking about guys who could wear the number 0. But you also have guys going, we can't let Lamar Jackson have a guaranteed contract. That's collusion. That's collusion at the highest standard, man. And he's a victim. He's a victim. They're using him to tell Jalen Hurts, don't you ever come to Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie demanding full contract guarantees. Don't you ever do that. We'll shut your ass down the same way we're shutting that kid in Baltimore down. Dude, NFL is undefeated. They're the heavyweight champion of the world and kicking the shit out of their employees. Guys can't even survive. There's a friend of mine by the name of Joe DeLamalore who played with OJ and them guys in the electric company. and his wife has got to work because they don't have proper benefits. And get this guy owns a gold jacket. He owns a gold jacket. He can't pay for his own health care. But you're talking to me about fucking numbers. Preposterous, idiotic, and so weak and lame. When is somebody going to stand up? When are these quarterbacks going to stand up for the rest of the league and demand benefits? Dude, guaranteed contracts and benefits. That's where it has to start the conversation. Shit, there's still owners out there like Jerry Jones who doesn't think that CTE is a result from playing long periods of time in the NFL or playing football for a long period of time. You got guys like that are still denying it. Shit, man. Paul Tagliabue just got put into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He used to have a hairdresser, honest to God, that used to be in charge of CTE and brain trauma. Guy was a hairdresser. I'm not kidding. Once again, man, they're in the owners' meetings in Phoenix talking about nothing except colluding against Lamar Jackson. They're never going to do that again. Never going to do that again. So that's right, man. We brought it up earlier in the program yesterday. Okay? Hey, absolutely. Let me tell you what's going to happen. The only time that this is going to change is when a player dies on the field. When a player is killed on the field, we almost had it last year. When a player dies on the field, that shit will change. Imagine that. You don't hope it, but when that happens, I think the game changes, and the NFL knows it's coming. That's why they have defenseless. They don't want to see their biggest fear is a player being killed on the field. So what do? They throw you a number change. What a bunch of shit that is, man. Dude, the league hates their players. They pay them because they got to. But at the end of the day, man, it's chicken feed to the grand scheme of things. Number changes. An owner actually walked into the room and said, hey, let's give these guys numbers. There's none of you wear number 0. I was like, man, who cares? That's a nothing burger. That's a nothing burger, dude. A player has to be killed on the field for the owners to give players proper benefits. Isn't that sad? Hey, look, man, these guys make millions and millions of dollars. I get it. You put yourself in harm's way. I get that too. I don't regret anything. But, dude, if you put your life and limb on the line for something, shouldn't you be compensated fairly? That's not fairly. Man, number changes. Okay. I think some of you are probably going to be shocked on how I'm going to address the Gardner Johnson tweet and the conversation with Seth and what we had yesterday. Okay? I think you're probably going to be shocked. And I want to read it. And I want to give it verbatim. Because, by the way, you know, Tony and I were just talking. I really didn't think the soundbite was all that nutty. Okay? I didn't think it was out of hand. I thought it was, you know, that there are a few guys, and it's being reported that a few guys think that, you know, potentially that Gardner Johnson could have been a cancer in the Eagle locker room. Now, does that come from the Eagles? Maybe. Soften the blow of losing the player? Maybe. But here's Gardner Johnson responding on the sound clip that we have at JAKIB that we did yesterday afternoon with Seth Joyner. My character was never a problem in Philly. Came to work every day, played my ass off for that city. Now I'm a cancer, LOL. Because I wouldn't talk to media in the locker room or give them the BS story to write. Let's talk facts. Had a problem with the way the Eagle media covered him. I buy it. Think it's true. But I'll also say this. CJ, bro, you signed a contract. You're in Detroit. You're on a good football team. Shut up. Okay? You could defend yourself. It's all good. I get it. And by the way, I'm a victim of this too. Do you know how many times Joe Kraus calls me and says something to me about a stupid market manager that fired me years ago and I'm still punching down? It's a weakness in men, no matter who you are. Why? It's true. Why? AJ Brown. I was just talking to Tone. He's on a podcast still barking about Tennessee and how that whole thing unfolded. Dude, move on. And listen to me talking. Listen to me talking. I have a hard time moving on when people take a shit. So does everybody. That's a weakness in everyone. I don't kill the kid for it, though. But you got to try to do your best to move on. You got a contract that could pay you $8 million. You were making $800,000 last year. You were one of the coveted free agents. The money senses. Dude, 800-fold improvement on your paycheck. CJ, you won this, man. Tone goes like this. Sills, do you think he wanted to stay? Probably. Yes. Yes. That was a good environment to play ball in. Yes. Dude, nobody likes to pick up where you're having success in a place and you like everybody in the room, but the Eagles weren't going to pay money. They said it yesterday. I disagree 100% that the Eagles offered him more money. Not true. Howie said it 2 days ago. They were on a budget. Said it 2 days ago. What, he was the only guy they weren't on a budget for? Come on, man. Brian, right. But see, you're going to, hey, wait a minute, Brian. One thing you got to say, A.J. Brown still talks shit on Tennessee. He did it either today or yesterday on a podcast. He still moans about that. Everybody, including me. So I'd be a hypocrite if I sat here and went like this. Gardner Johnson is an asshole for still going after the Eagles when I do the same shit. Okay, and it's about a month or so ago. Thank you. Thank you, Tone. But that's not the only comment I've heard A.J. Brown make about Tennessee. Threw shots at them last year, all year. So, I mean, at the end of the day, dude, I know it's impossible to move on, especially when you had the success in Philadelphia, okay? But you're barking. You wanted to stay. They wanted you. They didn't have the money. You wanted more. You got more in Detroit. You're on a good football team. I know it sounds like an easy transition. CJ, I know you watch the show. Listen, I'm with you, man. I F up too. I punch down. That's punching down. That is so punching down. Dude, you're one of the highest paid safeties now. I mean, right? You won. You won. You've got an NFC championship ring and $8 million. That's winning. You won. There's no reason, right? You won this. You won the argument in Philly. No matter what the media and no matter what the Eagles leak out, you won. They couldn't afford you. You got the money. Now it's just rhetoric. Right. This guy's making 10 times what he made last year. You won. Let it go. Hey, playing in Philly, coming out of the tunnel, all of that, I get it. It's a great, hey, man, when you're in a really great environment, and sometimes when you're in a shitty environment and you go to a great environment, believe me, guys, when I went from the Hurricanes and the winning to the Buccaneers, and I could not believe the amount of losing attitude that I saw, it is something you feel. It's like it's like a jacket that gets put on you. And you're like, holy shit, these people don't know how to win here. A lot of surrendering when you go to certain places. Then there's places you go and you're like, wow, everything's done first class. John, I agree. John, he wanted the money he got in Detroit and Philly. But the Eagles were on a budget. Gardner Johnson is a casualty to the pending Jalen Hurts contract, as is every other free agent that left. This was a common comment that I made to you all last year. Everyone keeps going, it's expected. Well, when it happens, it still stings. Let's not forget something. The amount of losses and starters, it's not just one or two. The amount of Pro Bowl starters, guys leading the NFL in interceptions, guys leading the Eagles in tackles, a guy who was considered one of the better pass rushing defensive tackles, all of that. It's a tough scab. Okay? But Jalen Hurts' pending contract, Gardner Johnson is a casualty to this. It's not an Eagle thing. It's the system. It's how the NFL works. It's the contracts for the big-time quarterbacks. The money that these quarterbacks are now making affects the roster. And it's expected. This is where you've got to hope your guy can play with a limited roster. And I'll say it again. I completely 150 billion%. No matter what some of these guys tell you, that ain't the same football team. And it's not going to be. They're going to be good this year because the offense is pretty much intact. Your special teams still blows. You didn't prove anything on special teams. You're playing better teams. What happens when you play better teams? All three facets of your team have to produce: special teams, defense, and offense. And you've not addressed either side. You addressed it with Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, restructuring of your corners, and giving a good deal to Bradbury. The rest of it's got holes everywhere, especially up the middle. You have no heart in your defense right now. That's got to be fixed. We'll see how he does it. Look, again, his biggest moves last year, Roseman, were not drafting. His biggest moves last year were trades. Draft day trade with AJ, CJ. Well, I get the Bradbury. Bradbury was a free agent because he got whacked in New York by the Giants because he was a casualty of the cap. And the signing of a free agent in Reddick. When everybody kept saying 3 teams in 3 years, I know he's got double-digit sacks. Now it's turned out to be this conversation for Hassan Reddick. You just didn't know how to use me, and that's a fair comment now. That's a fair comment now. You didn't know how to use me. Eagles figured it out. They figured out the Rubik's Cube. And he was productive, and down the stretch, Reddick could have been the better player than Nick Bosa even. Not Micah Parsons. He had the same impact as Nick Bosa down the stretch. In the playoffs, he was even more of a destruction guy. But this is how he does. He burns it down, but he's good at it. He's good at it. Tones like this, Sills, is it fair to say the Eagles are strongest at the high-impact positions? That's a spectacular take. Let's take a look at that. Pass rushing. Look, here's this thing I'm going to say about Reddick. I'll never say this about Hassan Reddick. You'll never hear me say this about Hassan. You think he could do it again? He's done it for 4 years. He's going on his 5th year in a row on double-digit sacks. That's Reggie White shit. So for me to sit here and go, I don't believe he's going to put up double-digit sacks, is an asinine comment. I won't make it because he's done it. Dude, I would have to put into the conversation over the last 5 years. Over the last 4 years. Maybe only Aaron Donald has more sacks than him. TJ Watt. He's got to be in that top 5. So you have to say, rushing the passer, Fletcher Cox had 7. Now, was that a benefit because Hargrave played next to him? Or vice versa, or both? We're going to find out. There's lesser talent in the defensive tackle position as of March 29th. There's less talent there. There's less depth. You got to remember something about Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. At one time, those guys were premier defensive tackles. Suh was arguably the best defensive tackle in the NFL at a stretch. He made $20 million in Miami. I mean, he was a preeminent DT and borderline Hall of Famer. And now he's gone. I might even address bringing one of them guys back for depth. I don't know. We'll see. Brandon Graham, okay, had a really good year. Josh Sweat, pass rushers, I think they're pretty good except for the middle. I think they got problems at DT when it comes to pass rushing. And that may affect your edge rushers. It may. Am I right when I say this? Tone, everybody. Hassan Reddick's game picked up when Suh and Joseph were added to the depth. His game went elevated. It elevated when they brought those two dudes in. Fletcher Cox's game elevated. Okay? You don't have that depth in there, so you're not having 70 sacks this year. The linebacker positions. Let's do this. And Tone's talking about premium positions and impact positions. What linebacker makes the biggest impact in the NFL today that's an inside backer? Let's think about it. How many times do you hear Fred Warner's name when it comes to a 49er win? How many times in Chicago did you hear Roquan Smith's name? I mean, that position doesn't have the impact that Ray Lewis had. The inside linebacker position. What inside linebacker is a dominant force in the NFL today? Right? Can you get away with dudes like TJ Edwards, to me, is a fine player. I wouldn't go great. I would go, he's a good player. Kaiser White, fine tackler. But listen to what I'm saying. Good player, fine tackler. Not a premium position. And to Tone's point, not an impact position. Safeties. I think that's an important position. I'll tell you why. I think it's tone setting. You're going to try to tell me you don't think Cam Chancellor set the tone with that Legion of Boom? Or John Lynch back in the day with the Bucks? Or a guy like Jack Tatum? Or people back there in that secondary? When you got an ass kicker back there setting tones, coming across that middle, hey, man, you start to get them little alligator arms. You start getting into that position. Okay? Right? But is it an impact position? Would you pay Gardner Johnson? Hey, CJ, I'm not paying you $10 million. That Jamal Adams deal? What did they pay him? $20 million a year? Never happened. All the number ones? Not a chance. I'm not paying. I think this is exactly how Howie's looking at this. He thinks he's going to get away with dime store guys. He might. Let's take a look at the corner position. I don't really think Slay played all that hot. I know he watches the show too. Darius, you have been, and I'm going to make this very clear so it doesn't come off as hating. I think you've been an absolutely wonderful Eagle since you came over from Detroit. You were good there. You're better here. Your last 2 years have been exceptional. I think your last 5 games of the year were not very good, and I did not think you had a good Super Bowl. And I thought I saw a little bit of you running out of gas. Okay? You're 32. Paying a guy that's a corner that plays center field $14 million? I don't know. However, in the tandem scheme of things, like Tone's talking, is he still one of the top 7 guys in the league? Yeah. Now, as a tandem with Bradbury, do they have the best tandem in the NFC? Probably. Dallas would probably bitch at you, but I don't really think that much of Diggs. I think he gambles too much. I think he gets beat over the top. I think he plays too much schoolyard football at that corner position, and I think he gets beat like Jalen Ramsey does. I don't think he plays structured football very well. I think you got to kind of throw him on an island, and I think he just goes out there, and I think he plays with a feel. Well, you get beat on that. There's more of a structure in Philadelphia. You know, one thing I heard, I don't think that you're going to see that much of a difference in structure of what the defense is going to look like. I think they're going to try to plug and play. Okay? Eagle fan goes, Bradbury will hit. Yeah, but as a duo, Eagle fan, as a duo, I think they're the best in the NFC still. Dallas is probably second. I think Miami's got, now with Ramsey down there and Howard, I think that's good. Okay? I think Miami has a good duo. Dallas with Gilmore now being added. I think Stephon Gilmore's better than Darius Slay. I think he's a little better. I think he's always been better. Same age, roughly, both guys. I think Stephon Gilmore's a better ball player. He's had a better career. Stephon Gilmore was the Defensive Player of the Year. And these guys are the same age. Okay, so, but again, as a duo, okay, Todd thinks Darius Slay's better. Are you under the impression that Slay's had a more accomplished career than Stephon Gilmore? You might want to look that one up. You might want to look that one up. So the impact positions, the problem that you have, though, in the replacement of those positions, you've downgraded. You're downgrading at the safety position. You're downgrading at the linebacker position. And you're downgrading, as of now, your depth in your D-tackle position. Last year, you went out and put veteran and pretty young guys at positions. Yacht goes Gilmore and Diggs or Bradbury Slay. I'm probably going Bradbury and Slay as a duo. Okay? Dude, you're really not going to make me do this, right? Okay? Stephon Gilmore stats. You're really not going there. Stephon Gilmore. According to Wikipedia, he's 32. Okay, he's the same age as Darius Slay. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He's the Defensive Player of the Year. Led the National Football League in interceptions. Come on. Defensive Player of the Year put you over the top. And if he was older, and he's played on shittier teams. Carolina and where? Indianapolis? Hey, again, bottom line, what he's saying. As a matter of fact, it's kind of where we're going with our next topic here. When he's talking about, I'm talking Tone, premium positions. Okay? How many Super Bowls? He's got 1 Super Bowl championship. Okay? Here we go. Hey, man, you take Slay's career, I'll take Gilmore's career. We'll agree to disagree. Let's move on to the second topic. What area of the draft should the Eagles address these positions? I'm going to say something to you here. The free agency, Howie, for him to upgrade positions that he needs, will have to be trades. How do you make trades? With draft equity. First, before we get into these positions here, by the way, I got a brand new mock draft. There's a different dude at 10 and 30 from what we're hearing for the Eagles and some of the other guys, because people are now putting more quarterbacks in the top 10. We'll get to that here in a minute. How many people think that Howie's going to trade one of those picks first, 10 or 30? Well, how about this? What do you think the odds are he trades one of those picks? What do you think the odds are? He's got more holes on his teams than he has picks. You understand that? There are more holes on the team than picks. Where are you addressing it? The more you address it in free agency, the lesser players you're going to continue to get. And you're going to get these moral guys that are going to be put on your team that are roster guys. They're not going to be impact dudes. By the way, I think the guy Edmonds will probably be a good ball player. Played in Pittsburgh, well coached. He was productive there. I think he'll be good. He won't be Gardner Johnson, like Seth said yesterday, and I completely agree with that. That's crazy thinking. Okay? That's crazy thinking. You're going to get a guy lead the NFL in interceptions. Crazy. Lamar says 60% he targets down with 10 and moves up on the 64th pick. I think he's going to try to get as many draft choices. And I think the pick, like I've been telling you, that he's going to do this with is 10. There is not a player outside of B.J. Robinson at 10 that's in this draft that can help the Eagles out. There's not a player in this draft. Maybe Jalen Carter. Will Anderson would help. But the rest of these guys, do you really think that Myles Murphy is going to help the holes on the Eagle team? Really? I don't. Vegas doesn't. Vegas right now still has the Eagles as one of the preeminent teams. By the way, most pundits are saying it's going to be Eagles and 49ers back in the NFC title game again. Okay? So if we're talking like that right now, you think one guy is going to change the world for you? I do not. Howie Roseman has not drafted one player on defense that has changed a team's fortunes. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Grant, this is 20 years of drafting. The Eagles don't draft impact players on defense. They really don't. They acquire them, trade for them. Free agents. Hassan Reddick. Get this. The biggest impact players on the Eagles last year was Hassan Reddick, your two corners. In a trade with the Hardgrave deal, because the Steelers let Hardgrave grow. He wasn't homegrown. There wasn't a player on your football team that really was like an impactful guy. Hardgrave was the best D lineman. Reddick was the best pass rusher. The two corners were, one was a free agent sign and the other was a trade. They don't draft impact defensive guys for whatever reason that is. And I do think it's a little bit of what Tone said. Dan, the NFL is changing today. And I've got to get over that because you know why? Finding an impact NFL guy, and you watch a guy like Will Anderson. Is this a fair comment? You draft a guy like Will Anderson, and you saw what he did at Alabama. I think there's more restrictions in the NFL playing defense today than there are in college. So what does that mean? You're never going to see Will Anderson be the player he was in college because of the limitations that the league puts on them with all the rules. I think you're starting to see that and feel that. Okay, right? Am I right? I mean, I think you have more freedom to play defense in college than you do in the NFL. How many people think Lawrence Taylor could play the game that he played today in the league? How many people think Ronnie Lott could play today? How many people think that Seth Joyner could play in today's league? How many people think that Reggie, the way he threw guys around, would not be penalized? How many times did Reggie lay on quarterbacks? Okay? Yeah, it's not that he couldn't play. The league would penalize him for playing that way. He'd be looking like that guy perfect. Be constantly be thrown. I saw a guy I saw the Tom Brady's, that late hit on Tom Brady in that Carolina game. How many people went like this? You got to be kidding me. Right? Dude, Reggie used to murder guys. Those guys who killed people back in the day, like Pat Swilling and Derek Thomas and them guys, man, would have a tough putt in today's NFL. They'd have a tough putt to get around the horn there, man. So maybe what it is, can you imagine this? You think Buddy Ryan would be a good coordinator today? Buddy's an aggressive guy. Jonathan Gannon might just be what everyone is looking for in a defensive coordinator. Keep everything underneath. Other teams will F up. You're not going to go on a 14-play drive. Somebody's going to screw up, especially when the quarterbacks that you're playing like they have in the NFC. Kirk Cousins is going to – watch this. Kirk Cousins is going to mess up. Okay? He's going to mess up. Geno Smith's going to mess up. These guys are all going to mess up. They're all going to – you can't go on 14-play drives. The odds that you're not going to have an offsides or a legal procedure or a fumble or a 3-and-out are so undecided to defense on a 14-play drive. 14 plays against me? Let's see it. Kirk Cousins couldn't do it and can't do it. So there's something to be said about that. So I wrote down the needs heading into the draft. What is the biggest need on this team? By the way, don't look at the draft pick yet at 10 and 30 because they could be different. What's the biggest need on the team right now? The biggest need that's on the Eagles. What's the biggest need that they have? They need to get better up the middle. Dual threat? Absolutely. Brian says everything. I don't necessarily think everything. I think they're pretty good at corner. I think their edge rushers are pretty good. Sweat, Reddick. I think they're Brandon Graham. I think there's some pretty good ball players there. Those are pretty good ball players. DT, linebacker, defensive line. Size up the middle of the defense. Well, dude, Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis, I don't know about you. The last time I saw Toledo, those guys bend the needle. Those are pretty big dudes. Those dudes are pretty big guys, those two guys. Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis, okay? The Toledo screams. You know what the Toledo is, right? Right? It's a scale. You get on the Toledo, man, that needle's screaming. All right? What round do you think the Eagles will address defensive tackle? What round? This will give us a sense when we get to the mock draft here. Okay? What round do you think the Eagles will address defensive tackle? first, second, first. Wow. First round? Really? Okay. So you must think that's a priority. No rip on Jordan Davis. This is not what this exercise is. So you got a one tag on that need. I'm going to show you what we're doing here. Coach Johnson showed me this exercise. He does it every morning, or did it every morning, with his scouting department and the head of scouting, Bob Ackles. So we're going to do it here for the Eagles. Safety. What round will the Eagles address safety? And by the way, take into consideration what Tone said. Remember something. You guys have more of a history with how these guys act. Okay? How we didn't want to pay CJ. No matter what they tell you in the media, they didn't want to pay him. I'm not thinking he's wrong. $10 million for a safety? $20 million for a DT? Howie's right. You still lose quality players, though. You still lose the quality player. Safety. Third, fourth, second day? Second round. Safety? You think Howie Roseman will draft a safety in the second round? I'm going more with history. I think third round. By the way, remember, third round's the most successful round in NFL history when it comes to the NFL draft. It's a very productive round. So you got a 3. DT's a 1. Safety's a 3. Okay. Offensive tackle or offensive line. What round do you think Howie will draft? They will draft. You can guarantee there's going to be an O-lineman drafted. What round? What round would you think the Eagles, who made a career out of drafting Hall of Fame players, developing them, they're fantastic at developing that position. Third, 1 through 3. No, you get one round here. I'm going to show you what the exercise is. So if you think one of those premium tackles falls into 10, you think they take the edge rusher over the offensive lineman? That's not their MO. They're not going to pass on Paris Johnson or the kid from Northwestern. If those two guys are there, there's a great chance I think they could take them. Don't you? That's who they are. That's who they are. I think they'll address the offensive line in the first round. Linebacker. What round do you think they'll address that position? And by the way, as much as they don't value the position, if you're going to play a 34, Tone says it too. Man, you can't put 4 linebackers on the field. You're lost. He's right. Especially when most of the teams today are in nickel. You think Howie uses a third rounder? I think he does. What round does Howie draft a quarterback? I think he will draft a quarterback. I think he will. I made it very clear to people because of the Tom Brady's of the world and the Kirk Cousins of the world, um, because of guys like that you never know when you land on them. Brock Purdy, you should draft a quarterback in every draft if you're the general manager. You never know when you land on that guy. You may land on a guy who's a future Hall of Famer like Tom Brady. You never know. And you really don't waste that much. Second round, no way. No way. No way. But why would you wait? Why would you put a second rounder on a guy when you got Mariota in the building? No way. That's right, Yale. You got a lottery ticket here. I'd say this. Sixth round? Well, they got 2 7s, right? Seventh round. How many of the needs have they filled here? Let's take a look at that. Okay. You got one linebacker. One linebacker. And you're going to try to do something in the third, maybe. How are you going to do that? I'm going to show you here. Safety. Third round. OT. First round. Dillard. Backup quarterback. How do you get to places where you need more linebackers, more depth at defensive tackle? You trade out of 10. You trade out of 10 and get multiple picks in the second and third rounds, seconds and thirds to retool your football team economically so you can pay Jalen. That's how this has to go down. You're not going to get quality players right now walking the street. This has been a very interesting and weird free agency period. I've never seen anything like it. There's not a lot of big guys out there, and when the big guys do get put out there, they're scooped up, man. And then you're kind of left with people who have all been put out there that they want to upgrade from. I mean, Kaiser White and TJ Edwards, do you know who got paid this year in free agency? Guys like those two guys. The upper guys, they manage the salaries. Is it collusion? I don't know. Dude, the only two guys that I see in free agency that made a killing this year were the kid Bates and Hargrave. I mean, who else made a killing in free agency? I'm trying to think. Was there anybody else that signed a giant deal? Shit, probably Bradbury. Breed goes trade back from 10, but stay in front of Dallas. Yeah, because you know why. I got why you want to stay in front of Dallas. You want to stay in front of Dallas to keep Robinson away from him. Okay? Tremaine Edmonds, he got paid too. Yes, he did. The kid from Buffalo, he got paid too. Yes, he did. But there's like 4 dudes that got paid. I mean, there's a D tackle in Seattle and the restructuring of the contract with the kid that was a DT in Washington. But, man, there wasn't a rush to all the – like 3 years ago, didn't the Patriots spend like $350 million in free agent contracts? Man, there was none of that. There was none of that. Edmonds signed with the Bears for $75. That's a big deal. By the way, too, I don't know if you count the Roquan Smith deal because that was on trade deadline last year. I mean, it kind of maybe, but not really. Okay? I say this. Because look, what's the biggest priority right now? There's 2 things for the Eagles. Look, you're not far away. Vegas still thinks you're going to make it to the NFC title game with the current roster you have. So if you upgrade with youth, 4-1 to 3-3, I think we will trade with Houston. They love the picks. I think you're going to get a team that's going to panic because one of those quarterbacks are going to fall down there. I think Howie's got the 10. I'll tell you what, too, man. I mean, could you see Howie trading up to 5? And then one of the teams that are in desperation to get a quarterback, a double trade, where then he trades it to some team that needs a quarterback like the Raiders or Indianapolis to get multiple first rounders because their guy from Kentucky's there. This is going to be a really great chess game. I think the draft is going to have more drama in it than any other draft I've ever seen because there's a desperation to get quarterbacks like Hurts, Mahomes, Burrow, all these guys. If you don't hear, one thing is evident. If you don't have a quarterback, you cannot win in this league a Super Bowl. Tone's great statement that I stole from him. You just can't put your name on the test there, San Francisco, and say you're passing. That's a fair statement by him. Hey, I get to the NFC title game. Okay? That's like Pittsburgh telling you, we haven't had a losing season in 17 years. So since when in Pittsburgh has the standards dropped to just having a good season? I thought in Pittsburgh you chased Lombardi trophies. Okay? Hey, I like everything San Francisco does except the handling of the quarterback. They can't get it right. Kyle Shanahan, for all of his brilliance, get this, he's a better coach for Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey than he is for his quarterbacks. Even though I thought Purdy looked good. Purdy's a better quarterback than Lance. When I watch Trey Lance play, he looks like he's laboring to throw the ball. When Purdy throws it, he looks like Breeze. He looks like Breeze throwing the ball. Accurate, smooth. I'm not saying he is Breeze. But you could tell when the football, dude, use your eyeball test. When the football comes out of that guy's hands versus Trey Lance's, it's night and day. I think the guy in Green Bay throws a better football. Jordan Love. The guy came into the Eagle game. I thought Jordan Love looked pretty decent in that ball game. I was like, hey, the kid's got an arm. Better than that shit I saw up in San Francisco. That guy, he won't be as good as Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick's a better player than him. Shit, you're hoping he's Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick won ball games. I actually was a fan of his play. I really was, man. I thought, he was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson. That's how I looked at him. I can't remember a game either, Lance, that he played in college except for one ball game. Dude, anytime that you get a Mitchell Trubisky kind of type guy where he plays only 1 year and you got so little tape on a guy, I always get kind of nervous with that. Okay? Garoppolo throws a great football. Paul says, Dan, do you agree teams like the Colts should wait until after the draft on Lamar's offer? They will then only have to give up on future picks. Paul, I think Lamar's going to be traded draft night. I think that's what the Ravens. And from what I would think Ozzie Newsome's going to do, you're going to have – here, watch this. You're going to have more bidders. Howie's going to have more bid. You know people want to change positions with Howie. How many teams do you think have called Howie Roseman right now to trade into the 10th pick? 10? I think so. 10? You know the Cowboys want that kid from Texas. I think the Cowboys are going to trade up and get him because they know this. Wherever you trade for B.J. Robinson, it will be the right place to take him except in the top 5. Because he's ranked the 5th best player in the draft. So if you get him at 11, 12, 9, he's still the 5th best player. You're not overdrafting. You're not overdrafting. So Lamar Jackson's 25 years old. If you're Ozzie Newsome and you're DeCosta and you're Biscotti, isn't your value on draft night? What are you going to give me? We're open for bidding. And then you know what teams are going to do? Teams are going to go like this. Here's $40 million. Because right now, get this. I don't know. How many teams do you think are really out there bidding on him? Don't you think we would have heard something by now? This is why I think they're waiting to the draft. I think they're waiting to the draft because I think you get more equity out of it. Because let's say this. Say the Raiders don't get their guy and they take Jalen Carter. Okay? They take Jalen Carter. They got Carter. They drafted him. All of a sudden you call Baltimore up and you go, I'll tell you what, man. I'll send you Carter, first round pick, and we'll pay him 50. Would Baltimore make that move? They need to get better on defense. Seth said it yesterday. The Ravens, why they're not the same organization? It's not Lamar. The Ravens defense, they look nothing like they used to look. They look nothing like it. I think Howie is sitting in a really great position right now for the draft. He's got to retool this team through the draft and not free agency because there's really not, unless he makes trades. Look, let me say this to you, and I'm going to do it again here. And I brought this up yesterday. Dude, he traded for Slay, right? He traded for Gardner Johnson. Gardner Johnson couldn't have been thought of that much in New Orleans, making $800,000. And they let him go. And they traded for him. The guy turned out to be a guy who's worth now $8 million. That's a talent. That's a skilled deal maker. Because you know why? He's done it multiple times. Hardgrave, Slay, Gardner Johnson. There's a track record. That's why I tell you this, and you guys think I'm hating. He's kind of okay and all over the place in the draft. That's why multiple picks for him are important. Why? Because he doesn't really hit a lot of good guys in the draft, especially on that side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. He's not very skilled over there. He can't pick a corner to save his life. His linebacker, like Tone says, is not a priority in the world. And he's got to get depth in the tackle position. And you got to pay. Remember, always end our conversations with paying for the quarterback. 4-1 to 3-3. With Lamar Jackson, you have to take into account that there's not an agent to talk to the media. He reps himself, makes it easier to keep quiet, but also put a false narrative out on him. You know what's killer is that I can't tell you how many shows I tune on, and I hear people, and I hear NFL former players talking shit on the way he's trying to get guaranteed contracts. You're okay with the player and the owners offering up the number 0, but not lifetime benefits and guaranteed contracts. And Lamar's trying to fight for guaranteed contracts. Every player that's in the media, every guy that is in it should be rooting for him, not vilifying him. But most people take the side of the team. You should be rooting for him because it'll affect tackles, guards, and the rest of them guys. Tone says this, you're right. How he isn't skilled enough to hit the bullseye with only 5 to 6 picks. That's exactly. He needs at least 8 bullets in the gun. That's what I want. Listen to this. Think about where, this is pretty inspiring if you think about it. Vegas has the Eagles still as the team to make it to the NFC title game. They got you a couple ticks down lower than San Francisco. So if you go into the draft and you tool up with a couple guys, say you get 8, to Tone's number, say you get 8 picks and 2 make impact, you won. You won. You won. You upgraded and you won. Hey, let me say this to you. Kansas City's not the same team they were a year ago. They got to get a wide receiver in the building. They're completely downgrading. Lost Orlando Brown. I mean, they're not the same team. How'd you like to go into that game with a lesser Kansas City team and your intact offense? Hey, right now, I'll tell you this. If I put the Eagles in a football game against Kansas City right now, Mahomes would kill that defense. That's my only issue because they couldn't stop him. Now, they couldn't stop him with the number 2 ranked defense. You're not going to stop him with that thing. New coaches. You don't even know what you don't even know what the structure is. 43, 34. I'm guessing 34. You don't even have players for that yet. You wouldn't beat Kansas City because Mahomes would destroy that defense. Okay? They'd kill him. Hey, by the way, the Eagles, I think, would run over that Kansas City defense. You'd have to go on long played. You'd have to keep that game low scoring. You're not going to outscore Kansas City if you're the Eagles. You're not. You're not. You have to keep that kid on the sidelines. And the only way you keep Mahomes on the sidelines with the current Eagle team is not with your defense. It's with that offense. This is why you better pray that running game. So who's your best running back right now? It's Jalen. That's not something you want to hear, is it? Or are you all right with that? Your number 1 running back is Jalen Hurts. Number 1 running back in Kansas City ain't Burrow. Not Mahomes in Kansas City. It might be in Buffalo. That's why that kid gets killed. It's in Baltimore. To me, I think they're, these guys are saying, hey, I feel pretty good about my running backs. You can't. You can't. Jalen is still going to carry the ball 17. As of right now, March 29th, Jalen Hurts is still going to carry the ball 17, 18 times a game. He was trending for 200 carries last year. Arthur goes six yards a carry. Yeah. He starts 2 games a year. Last 5 years. Congratulations. Let me know when he plays. Vet. CJ was giving away to the Eagles last year, and now he's worth $8 million in Detroit for 1 year. Why is he in Detroit? And why is he on another 1-year prove-it deal? I think that's the market. I think there's some truth to that. Free agency has been held down this year a little bit. But don't kid yourself. Philadelphia didn't offer him more money. Not true. Not true. What do you mean he misread the mark? No, but he misreads it. So you're trying to tell me if Gardner Johnson was offered more money to stay in the place, he's bitching at me and Seth because people, well, not bitching at us, but to us, because people in Philadelphia are now calling him a cancer. And he's still butthurt because he's not in Philly. You're telling me if there was a better deal there, he wouldn't have grabbed it? Use your common sense. Daniel says it's his mouth. I don't have a problem with a player's big mouth, as long as it's not destructive. I got to take a time out. Rick Barry's going to join us too. Hey, by the way, I got some comments I want to make about Joel Embiid. I want to do that. NCAA tournament. I got a mock draft I want to hit on too. These drafts change now so much with free agency. Do me a favor. Please hit the like button. Keep it